Short-term target for the SPX at 5,800. In this video, I'm gonna cover why do I believe that that is the path of least resistance going into next week of the SPX. So if you want to get more information about that, make sure to stick all the way through this video. Hey guys, welcome back to Alareso Capital. On today's video, as always, we're going to cover the market update and we're also going to take a look at some of the stocks. Remember guys that this video is for informational purposes only, is based just on my personal opinion and is not financial advice. So let's take a look here at the SPX. I'm looking for a short-term target of 5,800. Going into next week, I do believe that the path of least resistance continues to be to the upside, and we are going to cover the reasons for that thesis in this video. So let's start right here with the chart of the SPX. And one of the reasons that I do consider that the path of least resistance is all the way to 5,800 is, first of all, because we are breaking from this base right here on the SPX. We did have a slight pullback on Friday, but you can see that this hammer held the gap that we had to the upside and also held the breakout level in the SPX. Now, this is really important because you can see right here that we had this line somewhere around 5,000. This is somewhere around 5,685, and you can see right here that we had that rejection on Wednesday, and then we had that move to the upside on Thursday, and you can see that Friday we are holding that level right here. So I do think that this is going to be a very important candle going into next week. We had a really nice hammer candle formation right here on the SPX, and you can see right here that also momentum is also pointing to the upside, which I consider to be very important. Now, what are the things that I have in my chart? The moving average that we had on purple is going to be the 5 daily moving average, and I usually tend to exchange between the 20 daily and the 5 daily. Usually when the price starts to go a little bit extended, I turn that 5 daily moving average, and that way you can see that price continues to trend above that moving average, and we are holding these important anchor VWAPs that I have here in the chart, basically the one from the reversal candle, and then you can see that I have the one that touched that anchor VWAP before continuing to the upside. Now, one of the reasons that I consider that 5,800 is a target is because I have a Fibonacci extension. If you have been watching the channel, you know that I love Fibonacci for my short-term targets. I do find them pretty accurate, and I think that's a very important thing to understand when using them. And the ratios that I use is going to be the 1,272 for my first target, and then I'm using the 1,618 for my second target. And what I'm looking here is the level from this swing high to this swing low right here. And you can see that we touch that 1,272, we pause at that level, and then the next high probability target is coming right at that 5,800 level. So I do consider that to be a really important level of resistance. And if we happen to see a continuation from this momentum move, I think that will be a really nice target. Now, for this idea to be invalidated, we will need a close below this gap, and of course price should move below those anchor VWAPs, and then that idea of a continuation to the upside will be invalidated. If price continues to trade above these anchor VWAPs, I do think that that possibility continues to be into play if we happen to chop a little bit going into next week. Now, before we move to other names, I do want to take a look at some of the internals that we tend to check here in the channel. And what is really interesting, guys, is remember that we were talking about that overbought, those overbought levels that we had in the market, and now you can see that we're finally moving off from those overbought levels. So that's actually pretty encouraging. You can see right here that we are back at that 50 level, so kind of the middle of the range. So that's very good to see because that gives fuel for the market to continue to the upside. Also, if we take a look at some of the oscillators, you can see that we were pretty overbought, especially in the NYC composite. We were pretty overbought going into Friday, but you can see right here that we are starting to cooling off a little bit. And if we take a look at the ISIC, which is the ticker for the Nasdaq composite, you can see that we are basically back to zero. So we have a lot of room if the market decides to continue their rally to the upside. So that's pretty encouraging. And that is one of the reasons that I do think that we will continue to see a move to the upside. And then another thing that I want to show you guys is that in the Nasdaq composite, even though we had a pullback, and let me just make this a little bit bigger, you can see that even though we had that pullback, the volume ratios, which is basically the up volume minus the down volume in the Nasdaq composite, remain positive the entire day. So that usually gives you a really nice sign that these pullbacks tend to be opportunities to get some exposure for a continuation to the upside. That's a pretty nice internal that I like watching in the market. So now that we know that information, let's take a look at some of the setups that I'm going to be watching for next week. Currently, I do have a position on Netflix, I do have a position on Nvidia, and I do have a position in SOXL. So let's take a look at those setups first. So the first setup that I do have a position on is going to be Netflix. I really like this one. I already took some profits on this position. I started my position right here on this candle. And one of the reasons that I started my position in this candle is because we had this really nice hammer candle and I anchored a VWAP from that candle and price basically came back to that level. Usually that offers a really nice price for you to get in and look for a continuation to the upside. And of course, something very important that I watch is that momentum remains positive as we are pulling back to those levels. You can see right here that we pull back, got my position at 692, then took some profits already at that 1 hour multiple, which allows me to hold the position as we tend to go to my Fibonacci extension levels. And let me just hide these alert lines. So I'm gonna be looking for a target of 726, which is basically the 1618 Fibonacci extension. And you can see how beautifully this Fibonacci extension, the 1272, held as a level of resistance, which is actually pretty amazing. And that's why I love using Fibonacci for those short-term targets, because it's a really high probability way to find these levels. So Netflix is going to be one position. I do think that is viable around these levels if you want to take a look at it. Also, I do like Nvidia. Nvidia is a little bit more choppy, but you can see right here that we are starting to form this really nice flag. Let me just get rid of this anchor VWAP so that we can take a look at price a little bit better. You can see right here that we are starting to form this really nice flag. We are trading above the anchor VWAPs that I'm watching, which is basically from the low and from the gap. And really nice to see Nvidia holding these levels. I do want to see Nvidia hold this gap right here before we tend to see a continuation into that next level of resistance, which is going to be also the Fibonacci extensions with that gap of price that we have right here. So Nvidia is looking pretty nice. And then one that I really like how the semis are starting to shape before this highly probable next move to the upside. So what we have right here, and this is a really nice example of the anchor VWAPs acting as support. You can see that we have the one from the gap, and we have also the one from that really strong hammer candle that we had in the market. You can see right here that we came back into those levels, then we shoot back to the upside, and now we are holding that anchor VWAP, and we are also holding that 5 daily moving average. So really nice move in the semis. I do think that there's a really nice probability that we're probably going to chop a little bit here, but eventually I'm looking for a move all the way back to test these highs and also perhaps close that gap that we had above. So this one is looking pretty nice. Also, you can see that momentum is pretty positive, which is also nice to see. So those are going to be the three positions that I have. And then other positions that I'm watching and that are going to be kind of my focus. I love trading the Qs, so I'm always looking to get a position in the TQQQ. This is looking awesome, right? Really nice base. You can see the double bottom, the higher low, and now we're coming right into that level of resistance. I do think that eventually the Qs are going to close this gap, and also this lines up with that 1618 extension of Fibonacci. So this one is looking awesome. And then I'm watching the XBI. I'm also watching these names, but these are going to be my main focus, which is going to be the Q, and it's also going to be the biotechs. So this one is looking pretty amazing. Let me just close this. This is a really nice base. You can see right here in the XBI that we had this move to the downside. Then we printed this higher low, and this is forming a really nice base. So right now, basically, we're back to that 5 daily moving average. We are trading above these anchor VWAPs and momentum is pretty positive. So I am looking for a breakout here. And probably the best opportunity to start the position was on Friday, but let's take a look. Let's see if perhaps we get a small candle and then a break above that candle for the extensions of Fibonacci as our targets. So this one is also looking pretty nice. So that's basically gonna be it for the video, guys. I want to keep things pretty simple. I like to look at the indexes and big cap names. And I usually what I like is acting on those names with size. That way you can make a lot of progress and you can be really focused on just a few setups and do your best to execute those setups to the best of your abilities. So once again, that's gonna be it for the video, guys. I hope that you had an amazing weekend. I will see you next week. Take care and bye bye.